Podcast number 2. How did that happen? You've changed. What week is this? Yeah. Welcome back to the Humble and Brag podcast. We still don't have a name. That's fine. What do you want to talk about in this episode? We had some show notes.
I kind of think Humble and Brag is such a good name. Humble and Brag podcast is also okay.
The H&B.
I know. Yeah.
H&B Jelly Time. No, I was riffing on peanut butter jelly time, but it's not. Doesn't really make sense.
I don't know. Yeah, I'll give it some thought. By podcast 3, we'll have a name.
I think so.
And a listener maybe. So by the time we have our first listeners, then we need a name.
Yeah, I'm just going to check one thing because I noticed your mic is maybe just a little bit into your neck. Let me just check the audio. No, it's fine.
Yeah, no, it's just flipped over.
If you're wearing a shirt, maybe you could put it on the lapel like this.
Yeah.
You have to take it out. It's facing down. Can you turn it up again? Sorry, I mean, you might have to take it from under the t-shirt, if that's all right.
You mean bring it back up?
If you take it under, take it out of the t-shirt and then down, and then if you just bring it back up and just maybe tuck the cable in on the inside of the lapel. Sorry, I should have spied that. Cool. And then if you just kind of tuck the, it's a bit janky, but okay. I can't tell if it's focused on you. Cool. Cool. Welcome back to episode 2 of the Humble and Brag podcast. We still don't have a name for it. Humble and Brag.
Don't need one.
Maybe good enough.
Great content doesn't need the name.
Exactly.
Carries itself.
Value-led content in our video podcast.
Incredible watch times.
I hope so.
Terrible CTRs, incredible watch times.
Those things usually go hand in hand. What do you want to talk about today? We had some show notes. What was this one about?
I was going to ask you the top 3. I mean, it can be more, it can be less. Top 3 YouTube videos of your career.
Oh.
So what's the story behind them? It could be because of the impact that it had on the company that you're working for, because of the kind of maybe just simply the number of views. It could be the responses, how you change someone's life through a YouTube video.
Damn, we're getting deep
those
now.
kind of things.
Yeah.
So any that come to mind?
How many of them
and
have
why?
to be from
a
my
little bit
time
of
with you?
a backstory. They all need to be
they need to be
with me in the video and how they changed their life.
Yeah, I can do that. I think that's a good idea for the podcast. Hopefully the viewers and listeners will be interested in that as well. I think it's a good, because then you kind of equate that to then obviously the business impact, because usually they go hand in hand, right?
If they're not, then we just say we're doing it for us, not for them.
Exactly. This is for us. This is for us. There's not necessarily any strict learnings here. I would say if I had to pick, you kind of sprung this, I would say there's maybe one from recent times, more in Career Foundry, which I think was really impactful. And then there was 2 from AJ and Smart that I wanted to reference at my time there, partly because of the impact that they had, but it was, for me, an example of how content can actually impact people. And that's not to say that it hadn't happened later in my career either, but I think these videos just had like runaway success. So if you view viewership as maybe a bit of a vanity metric, but it is a nice snapshot and a window into video's performance. So there's 2 videos, and we can maybe flash these up somewhere. The first one would be how to get started in UX design, or I think that was the title, Get Started in UX Design or something, which I released in, I'm tempted to say May or June 2020 at AJ and Smart. It featured my friend and colleague at the time, Amr. And he basically, that was a video where we revisited a topic that had already been successful. So this whole sequel technique coming back that I harp on constantly about. But that really blew up, and I think as of present recording, it has 1.5 million views. But for me, the interesting thing is the comments that people dropped in that video. Whereas, again, maybe we can flash this up, but it really had an impact. And I've shown that video to people because sometimes I feel a bit like, I just make some YouTube videos for a living and I enjoy it, but and you have business impact, but you never really see this effect on people. And the comments and the engagement in that video drummed up. It has I think 1,200 comments. And a lot of people were saying that it was their first taste of UX design and it got them started in the industry, and they find the learning materials and the way the video was structured, this kind of 7-step guide, but going through the different motions, really easy to follow and impactful. So for me, that would be video number 1, purely because of the audience reaction, which I was, again, it took off with some success at the time, but it's just kind of grown and grown and grown. And an example of what we talked about in the previous podcast, where you have this kind of compounding effect, it's still an absolute monster in the UX design sphere space on YouTube. So that was video number 1, again, just because of the audience appreciation and the impact it had there. And Oh, I'm going to put in a curveball. I was going to say another video, but that was kind of similar to the first video that I mentioned in the reasons why. I think one video that I was really chuffed to get out was this version where I had Jonathan Courtney of AJ and Smart working with Chris Do on a logo. Which, if I'm honest, like it really split the room in terms of people that took it way too seriously and didn't get kind of the joke, which Chris was fully in on. But I think that was a video where there was a lot of apprehension in the filming because you're working with someone as big as Chris Do. He's in the room. You don't want anything to go wrong. And we had a fairly small setup, like a couple of cameras, and I had assistance from Philip. This is probably going to mean nothing to viewers, but like Philip, a colleague and friend at the time, came in and helped. But I was just so nervous, and then to see that video just take off and have all these like kind of almost the opposite, like these kind of negative comments. But it was a humorous piece, and I think it was it really split the room. But it was quite impactful in that sense. But I kind of realised the impact that content could have, and maybe how the internet sometimes doesn't always get the joke, which is kind of key to remember when you're making stuff, particularly publishing it to like a global audience. Like culturally, there's obviously there can be differences in different cultures around the world, and people sometimes take things too seriously or not seriously enough, and that was an interesting one. So I wouldn't say that it was necessarily one of my favourite videos, but it was definitely one of those videos that made me kind of like, oh wow, you have this kind of effect, and you can publish something, and it can be as widely viewed and attacked or defended as this, which was really interesting. So that would be video number 2, purely from a kind of fun point of view. I think it was the first ever design humor video maybe on YouTube, or that was how it was billed at the time. But it was really fun to work on, kind of stressful to release, but enjoyable to watch back sometimes now, and I show it to people when I'm showcasing some of my funnier work from there. And then thirdly, I think maybe it's not one video, but a series of videos. I would say probably this New York testimonial content that we released at Career Foundry. I was going to say the What is Data Analytics video, but I can talk about that a little bit later. But recently, or in fact this year, we went off while I was part of Career Foundry, and we captured a lot of customer testimonials in New York City with a lot of the graduates that had been through the CF program, the UX design program primarily. And we were just chatting to them in their workspaces or in their neighborhoods, and we filmed some of the best footage I think I've ever captured in my career. It was like really sharp, nice, really crisp, but we used nice cameras and lenses. And it was just this really nice human experience where like even on camera and off camera, you got a real taste for how storytelling and how people's journeys can kind of not only impact the business side of things and the business impact, but just really resonated with you. I think the team that went out were super fired up and inspired. So it's not necessarily one video, but if you can check it on YouTube, go to the Career Foundry channel, there's a whole playlist. But I definitely think that was some of the best work. And I'm kind of glad it kind of came at a time almost towards the end of my career there as well, before we got into this Humble&Brag. But it was really fun to work on, and just this really nice celebration of like storytelling and visual design and video all kind of coming together.
I like how you see Humble&Brag as the end of your career.
Start of a career. The end of my career while being kind of an employee, I guess. Before
you have a nice story as well, though, right? With one of the graduates that you filmed talking about her career journey, who then attributed her kind of departure point, whatever the trigger was for deciding that, I think it was UX design as well, was for her, was your video from AJ and Smart,
I actually
right?
forgot about that, yeah.
And then it kind of came full circle, where you had someone that watched that video, decided UX was for them, went to Career Foundry, did a program, changed career, landed a job, and then ends up being filmed by you and says, this was and then it's like, I filmed that video 4 years ago.
I completely forgot about that. Yeah, that was actually one of those really life-affirming moments where I was like, oh wow, it's gone full circle.
You're the most influential person in her life, one way or another.
Yeah. Well, that happened in New York. I think it was maybe
as well,
third or second. But then it was a graduate that we interviewed in Berlin as well.
Yeah.
And then she had said this. So the video that I mentioned previously, the How to Get Started in UX one, had been watched by this person who hadn't really any understanding of UX as a background, UX design as a background, and then watched the video, followed the steps, got involved, had undertaken the Career Foundry short course, went through the funnel, and decided to take the course eventually. And then is now working in UX design 4 years later. So full circle. And then I got to meet her, but she didn't know that I'd made that video, and I didn't know she'd watched that video. And it was this kind of weird epiphany while we were filming. Yeah. I had to take a moment and leave the room. A tear came to my eye. No, it's not true. But it was actually really life affirming. So I would say those are my 3 that I feel have had the biggest impact on me as a kind of content producer. Oh, your mic's fallen off. The audio will be fine because it'll still pick up on mine. And we're doing it live, you know, we're not going to stop.
These things
now.
happen. These
Yeah.
things happen.
We're doing it live. It's all good.
We're professionals.
We're absolute professionals. But that's kind of mine, and I think I kind of cheated with the last one because it was a series of videos, but more maybe like a theme or a series perhaps. And maybe turning the lens back on you. Like, well, you've got quite an illustrious career in YouTube. You've worked at several companies and scaled out different YouTube verticals for different people. What would you say your 3 are?
So I was thinking I'd try and take one from each company, but to be honest, that's just too much.
Yeah.
I mean, like from Career Foundry alone, like all the things you mentioned, I think like the testimonials that were shot in New York were fantastic and like represented this kind of crazy level up in the quality of what was being produced. Which is already...
I've seen his thing where he edges off the screen again. So that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I mean the quality was already great before, but like it was suddenly kind of this cinematic quality, and then there's a lot of storytelling, obviously real kind of insight into their lives and how they'd changed. But then if I took like 1 or 2 videos from Career Foundry, I'd say like the trends videos, because it was just so interesting how they would just take off around the turn of the year, because obviously it was, you know, talking about different trends in different industries, and it's got a good search volume, but also just a lot of people interested obviously in what's going to happen next year, what kind of trends they need to be aware of. So those videos would almost always take off. And then just seeing the knock-on impact of that in terms of brand search volumes, everything increasing through like this purely organic piece of content. That was very cool. And then one, just because it was an idea that was really just pride from the hands of creators, was the whole, this title that I knew would work, which was the how I would become something, like how I'd become a web developer if I started all over again, or I was to start over. And I saw all these creators producing that and getting a lot of views because this title just seemed to work really well with people, this idea that you were going to be told by an expert who'd trodden that path exactly how to do it, and to do it in a kind of accelerated manner, I guess. And I produced a couple of those, and particularly the data one really took off.
Do you want some water?
Yes.
We don't have any water. This is going to be great. I just go like off camera and then like into the kitchen and then like run some water.
It's all right, I can take over. Got a camera to myself now, finally.
You can keep talking.
It's the Ed Show. Professor Humble.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, thank you.
You can see that this has actually been done in my front room at present, so I have access to a kitchen. Have kitchen we'll use, you know, it's, why not? Sorry, I cut you off.
So yeah, those 2 from Career Foundry, but like primarily because the results, because they really took off. Although the trends videos and the how I'd start over videos. Then I guess from when I first started, from the first channel, the English Academy, like the Language Academy, I made an extremely dry video in black and white about how to describe graphs.
Okay.
Which still to this day, if you type in, like 12 years later, I think, if you type in like how to describe graphs in English, like aimed at students, typically, I don't know, maybe early university students or something that have to do that kind of thing in English. And from a linguistic perspective, it's pretty solid. From a production editing perspective, not.
Okay. What were some of the challenges?
I mean, like at the time, I was using Windows Movie Maker to edit the videos.
Okay.
And I just had this little, like, I didn't have a lot of money, so I had a camera that looked a little bit like this that I would put on a kind of gorilla pod on the middle of the table. And then I would record a PowerPoint presentation with screen record.
Okay.
And then I would do the voiceover
Right.
of the PowerPoint presentation and then splice that into the black and white footage because the quality wasn't good, so somehow I thought it'd look better if I made it black and white. Put it all together, and like super useful from the content perspective, but not great from the editing perspective. But like I said, still to this day, it's like on the first page.
Nice.
And still people from all around the world, you get like comments from people all around the world being, it's super useful, it helped me for my IELTS exam or whatever. A bit like your story, like on a lesser scale, but like your story where it's just like, this is amazing that it's like helping people out still to this day. So I'm not particularly proud of the creative aspect of that video, but like the impact that it's had, definitely.
I think that goes to say that you obviously have to have content that is like stellarly produced. It doesn't have to be like Oscar worthy. You can produce something and it's just the value or the entertainment factor. Ideally, maybe there's a crossover between value and entertainment, edutainment. I don't know. Maybe that's that word. But yeah, I think that's true, right? You don't have to have it as some polished. Ideally, maybe.
I mean, ideally,
if you
ideally
can,
it looks
why
like
not?
this.
It looks like this. Look at this. That's not my real wallpaper. But yeah, I think that's true. Like, I think it's really testament. I thought you for a second you were going to mention the polyglot video.
That's coming next.
Oh, wait,
that'll be
is this...
That'll be the last one.
Okay.
So
Sorry.
if I took one for each, like one area or whatever for each company, that would be the last one. I would say like the one thing about the graphs video is that like you obviously have to start somewhere. Like I think everyone's first video doesn't look great either, probably. So it was a good starting point, but looking back compared to what you guys were creating at Career Foundry or what we're doing at Babbel, obviously a big difference. And at Babbel, the story that I've probably told you too many times already.
They've not heard it. The viewers and listeners want to hear. Yeah.
I think we were maybe like 30 or 40 people in the whole company, and then one guy walks into the kitchen and he introduces or says hello, good morning to people in each time in a different language. So someone walks into the room, he says hello. Another person walks in, he says hola. Another person walks in, he says bom dia, whatever. Every single time a different language. And 7 or 8 different people or something like that. And I was like, by this time I was a big YouTube fan, so I'd seen a lot of polyglots on YouTube that had racked up a lot of views just switching from one language to another. So I said like, so who are you? Like, how many languages do you speak? Will you sit in front of a camera for 10 minutes and just do kind of exactly what you just did? And he said, his name was Matthew, spoke, wasn't really sure how many languages, said like 10 fluently, 20 maybe in total. And yeah, why not? So I got my dad's camera and just put it on some books, and then filmed him switching from one language to another. And he did, I think it was 9 languages or 10 languages, something like that. Really roughly edited it. By that time I actually had a video editor that could do a decent job of that as well. And then released that. And we put a little bit of money behind it. And then there was just took off organically as well, and like now I think across all the languages it's got like 20 million views or something like that.
That's insane. That's wild. Yeah.
And that in itself was like a huge proportion of the Babbel revenue. Oh, yeah.
Ed's getting a phone call. You can take. Do you want
Matthew? No. Hey. We're still filming, but yeah, we're just on the last podcast filming. What's your plan? Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah. Then I'll just give you a call when we're done here. Could just come straight to you. All right. Cool. Bye bye.
I'm going to leave that in.
Yeah. So authentic.
There'll be like a cut where Ed takes the phone call and it cuts back out.
It's a client.
Yeah, it's a client. Hey, sell. Wait, buy. Okay.
So we released it. Then it kind of went a little bit viral, and it was driving a huge percentage of the growth and the revenue for quite a long time, for like a year or so. And then it really dictated the strategy that we took, because then we saw that there was this huge interest in polyglots. For me, they're like the Lionel Messi of the language world, right? And so just like everyone wants to watch Messi videos on YouTube, people want to watch the best of the best and get inspired by that. And so for a long time, we started just bringing in more and more polyglots, and that's when we discovered that this guy Matthew had a twin brother that also spoke 20 languages, like identical or virtually identical twin brother.
Wild.
And so we're like, okay, we went to friends' cafes around the city, and then we just sat them down, and then we were like, they would just rifle through the languages that they spoke, and the same thing again, they would like be super popular, got millions of views. Then we invited other polyglots in, and like had the 4 most kind of famous polyglots in the world, 2 of them which were the twins by that point. And they had to learn like Romanian in 1 hour. We did a lot of like challenge content where they had to learn Turkish in a week, learn Romanian in an hour, and then film all of that. By that time, like Instagram was starting to be a bit of a thing, so we could do live content around it as well, publish it across a lot of different channels. Yeah, and that really took off, and that was a lot of fun, because also you just work with these geniuses, basically, like people that can speak 20 languages, and you get to actually be on set with those people, which is just like almost an honor in itself.
The fact that you found like twins, identical twins.
I mean, that was just a huge stroke of luck. Obviously not entirely luck, because you're working at a language learning company, so you're attracting those kind of people. But I mean, certainly that he had a twin brother that lived in Berlin. It's mind-blowing. They lived together. I mean, I think they still live together probably. But they ended up on national TV in every country in Europe.
That's wild. I honestly can't. I honestly, if you had told that story without showing me the video, I'd be like, that's no. That's almost too crazy to be true. But that's cool. I mean, you see the impact as well. Just to touch on that. So like, is that kind of where you start to realize that YouTube could be such a big player in marketing and for companies as well?
I mean, then it's like undeniable, like the impact that it had on the growth of the company.
Yeah.
I was even listening to a podcast the day before yesterday of the current CEO of the company, and he still talks about it.
Really? Ah, cool. Nice.
Still talks about it as one of the kind of inflection points. And that was really like, yeah, it was all on YouTube. So that was like, now it's, it's multi-$100 million company. But in that important kind of transition from being startup to scale up to being where it is now, then that was a real inflection point. Yeah.
That's incredible.
And that was real YouTube driven. So I mean,
were you tracking stuff though? When you see it had a massive impact, were you back then tracking stuff, and what did that look like compared to most recently?
I mean, this is where we can potentially geek out.
Okay.
This is where we find out, like, we see this big drop off in viewership.
The retention
the
just
only people
plummets.
that are left are true YouTube geeks.
Exactly.
So you remember, like, YouTube was entirely Flash before it became like HTML5.
Oh, you had the cards.
And not even you could embed these annotations, which are basically these kind of outlines that you could put anywhere in the video. And we had managed to justify YouTube as a kind of performance channel because we had used those little annotations within the videos to jump you from one point in the video to another, and then we had basically built YouTube video quizzes where if you got the question right, you'd jump to one point, and if you got the question wrong, you'd jump to another point, and it would take you through like basically a kind of Babbel style lesson within the video. And at the end of the video, if you had a certain number of subscribers and if you were paying, if you were actively advertising, then you could also have external links in those annotations. So we'd take you from the end of the video into a demo quite seamlessly, and then we could see exactly who was coming from the end of those videos into the demo and then converting by purchasing a subscription or whatever. And that worked really well at kind of a fairly small scale. Basically, we'd find all the language learning videos, then put those on top as a pre-roll ad. But it wasn't like hugely scalable. What the polyglot videos did was like make that infinitely scalable because they were just interesting to everyone. Like if you said to anyone on the street, hey, this is my mate Matthew, he's going to speak 20 languages. Do you want to just leave us alone, or do you want to watch him do it? Like 98% of people are going to say, I'm going to stand around.
Yeah, I piqued my interest.
He doesn't live so far away. We can
hit him up.
What a podcast.
That would get him on the podcast.
We don't even need the AI
both
translation
on the podcast.
Yeah.
He can translate it in real time.
Matthew,
that's incredible.
Yeah, and then we released it, and then we just saw hundreds, thousands of people coming through these links at the end of the video. To then try out the product and then try learning a language, having been inspired by Matthew, who also was like writing, creating the courses. So you can imagine the authority it gives to the product and the courses if they see that this genius is helping produce them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is just such an incredible story, and the fact that you use like a native platform feature on YouTube to then monitor that and drive. I mean, I don't think these flash animations or these sort of title cards are available anymore.
No, they don't exist. Like you have to use different ways, which is unfortunate because there's a huge. I mean, like at the time because we were investing a fair bit in YouTube, and like we're also doing a lot of presentations in conjunction with Google because we were like a bit of a popular case study basically because of the success we had. And I remember just like arguing with their product owners and product managers not to remove those things because we completely relied on them. And then they'll be like, no, sorry, it's going, it's a new age, get with the times.
Incredible.
So yeah.
I feel, that is quite an incredible story in and of itself. Like the fact that you were able to do that and measure it all internally with YouTube platform features is incredible. I mean, how would you maybe go about just trying to distill these stories that?
Like I think for some of the video types, then when we're talking about the Career Foundry videos or the language school that I mentioned, then it's much more reference style content, so kind of explainer video style content or edutainment, like you said, kind of like basically educational content that is very watchable and very edited specifically for YouTube as well to be engaging. And I think you obviously need to know what you're doing, but there's a certain kind of almost a science behind it. A little bit like there is just like the kind of performance marketing of organic YouTube in a way. When it comes to the stuff like the polyglot videos of Babbel, then I feel that that's okay. It had a huge performance impact, but it's kind of a more brand-driven thing where you're looking for this insight of something that's both sensational, so something that's going to really grab attention, a bit like your Christo video in a way, but also highly relevant to the product. So when you take a polyglot, then it's obviously someone that has extremely high level of expertise in language learning, essentially. In Babbel's case, then that person was also creating the courses, so highly relevant, but also sensational, because you could say, check out this guy that speaks 20 languages. And then you could say, these are his tips to learn a language. And then that gets even more relevant. So you can kind of push people down the funnel in a way with that, and you can create lots of kind of content that clusters around that main pillar of video content, which is essentially what we did. So any company that was looking to do kind of YouTube-driven growth, I'd probably start with that bread and butter of the kind of very reference-driven content that's going to be evergreen, that's going to drive search volumes, and just naturally build the channel, because I would be extremely confident in doing that. And then whenever you move in any direction to do something that's more branded in inverted commas, it's a bit more risky, but then, like any well-calculated risk, the outcome of doing it well is going to be order of magnitude higher. And then you're looking for that same mix, basically, of something that's going to be sensational for people, particularly in that target group or that industry, and then also highly relevant for your product. Otherwise, you're just never going to get that kind of conversion rate off the back of it, whether that's like measured or not.
When you say situational there as well, though, I think it's like situational almost reads as authentic as well, because I think it's not something you can just fake, right? You can't go in and train someone up to learn how to speak 20 languages for the purpose of a video. I think there's an element of like authenticity and realness that you kind of have to channel in, and maybe that is situational in the sense that you also have to be, there's an element of like right place, right time, right? Like if you hadn't been in Berlin, it would be quite hard to replicate that as well. So
I mean, what did happen kind of interestingly next, and I think that's relevant for most companies can take that angle, is that there is this interesting kind of internal struggle where there is this idea that if you show someone with the kind of expertise of a polyglot, it's actually intimidating for people, or would actually discourage people from learning a language, right? Which is, to me, is nonsense, because when you watch Messi play football, you want to play football. It's not like you say, I'm never going to touch a football again. Like, seeing people that are extremely good at something is generally an inspiration.
It's aspirational, yeah, definitely.
But as a kind of response to this, we're like, okay, now watch these average guys try and learn a language in a week. And so like, I tried to learn French in a working week, and was like waking up at 6 a.m. to start studying with the app and stuff. And you see that format, obviously tons on YouTube, this kind of challenge format, like the Try Guys with BuzzFeed and stuff are super popular, where they just kind of try something new week in, week out to master something in a short space of time, typically.
It depends on the challenge, I guess.
I mean, I found with the challenge, like you would learn to actually like a surprising degree, and then within a week, you basically forget it as quickly as you learn it.
Yeah. But it's an interesting format, and definitely the video that you mentioned as well with the how I'd learn data analytics, for example, if I was starting from scratch. I think in the context of the entire YouTube channel that we both worked on at our previous employer, that was definitely the most impactful video, and I think drove tens, if not hundreds of thousands in sales, which is really interesting to see from one video. And I think it was that story arc, right, where like someone who is now an expert in the industry is reciting, sort of recanting almost how they would do it now with the improvements in technology or the tools. And that's something you could almost replicate every year, right? You just go back and as new tools, particularly now with AI coming out in data analytics, definitely, but in pretty much every industry, there's tools it reaches into and you can refresh. So yeah, no, it's really interesting, and definitely if you're watching on YouTube, hopefully something that we could replicate on our channel.
For sure, I think it's all about kind of creating those pillars where you have the reference content, you have that being produced regularly, and then on top of that you're layering these kind of moonshots where you go for something that's just a bit more sensational, a bit more storytelling, a bit that's going to kind of drive those peaks in interest and engagement. Absolutely,
and I think for us it could be something along the lines of like how we develop a content strategy in like a day or something for like a client or a dream client, like what we would do for client X or something if we were to work with them. That'd be really interesting to do. Cool. I mean, should we round it up there? I mean, it's been another amazing unnamed podcast, which is fantastic.
Maybe that's what we're calling it from now on. The unnamed podcast.
Yeah, like the unnamed soldier, but The eternal podcast.
But hopefully not buried somewhere.
Always ends in a downer. It's always we need to like our story arc needs to end in a positive.
So,
but thank you so much for watching. It's been great. I've been Calum.
I've been Ed. At some point we have to do the Dr. Brag and Professor Humble thing. But
We should wear like a doctor's like a stethoscope and a white coat and I don't know
let's
what
get the
professor
t-shirts.
wears.
Doctor,
The doctor,
We'll do that.
potential merch opportunity. I like it. Thank you so much for watching and/or listening, and we'll see you next time. Hopefully, this is a recurring thing that we'll try and do. Maybe once a week, we'll publish one of these. We're still figuring it out. We're still figuring it out. It's great. Thank you so much for watching. Catch you later.